I'm here with Howard Bender. Welcome into the Quick Pitch MLB DFS podcast and live stream here on the Better Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm social channels. Howard, welcome on to the Quick Pitch show, man. Filling in for Grande today. It's a nice little present for everybody.
Nice little present for everybody. Nice little present for me. When I heard I had the chance to be on this live stream with you here, I'm taking time away from a little fish vacation right now, just so I could be here with you, man. How are you, John?
I am doing fantastic. You know, for me, we've talked to the viewers who've been tuning in this past week on the countdown clock to Las Vegas. Leave tomorrow for the old bachelor party. So this will be my last live stream show of the week. We'll have James Grande back tomorrow at Henry Wilson for Thursday and Friday show on the podcast. Bender, you'll be in there helping out as well. Grande there this week while I'm away. So this is not your last appearance on the Quick Pitch show for this week. For the fans at home, but it is your first. And we have a 4-game main slate that we're talking about today. It's going to be a quicker show than usual. We normally go the hour. We're only going to go for a half an hour today here. And we're going to break down the 4-game slate. We had a monster main slate. And it started off at 1 o'clock today. Arizona and St. Louis, they kind of broke everything out there. Pittsburgh and Coors. Pittsburgh hung like 9 runs in the first inning on Colorado here. So a lot of scoring in the main slate. But Howard, when we're talking 4 games, the player pools much smaller, the rostership percentages much higher. You really got to be perfect almost with these smaller slates.
Yeah, you really do. You got to figure out exactly where you're putting your money. And if you're playing in the GPP, bigger GPP contest, you have to figure out exactly where everybody's going to go and then try and find that deviation. I mean, I think that there are some interesting spots on this slate. However you guys start doing this here, as far as like you want to jump into pitching, you want to talk individual game matchups, but I have a pretty good idea of where I want to go for pitching in this one.
Yeah, let's talk a little Vegas odds here, Howard. We only got 4 games to go over. We'll see if we can identify any clear favorites, any high game totals. We have Baltimore, Washington. Baltimore is a favorite in this one, minus 145 on the money line. It is a 9 over under in this game. We have the Angels and the Yankees here. The Yankees are minus 135 favorites with a 9 over under. Minnesota at Boston here. Minnesota is a minus 135 road favorite, 9 over under in that game. Toronto, Houston. Houston is a minus 105 at home. Toronto minus 115 on the road with a 9 game total there. So those are the 4 games. All of them have run totals of 9. No like very far and away Vegas favorites here. It looks like Baltimore has the biggest line there, minus 145.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was looking also. Yeah, I think that, with the quality of pitching that's on this slate, and let's face it, there's not a great quality of pitching. I think we can find bats all over the place. And, we'll talk about value and stuff like that. But I think it's most important here to probably just nail down your pitching and then build around that. For me, when I look at this, blindly off the slate, even if I'm just looking for guys who are, expected to get the win, I think that, you can look at, at like Joe Ryan and Luis Garcia as strong candidates, even though the odds aren't really heading over their way. But I feel like in this one, for me, I'm less concerned about who's going to walk away with that win as much as I am just who's going to minimize the damage the most, because right. I think that's really where you're going to get hurt the biggest here is if you choose that wrong pitcher, you're screwed.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, 2 pitchers. If you're taking a look, everybody's got an earned run line over on DraftKings Sportsbook set at 2.5. Kyle Bradish actually has the best under odds at minus 170, under 2.5 earned runs. Again, we talked about Baltimore as the biggest favorite on the board. We don't think of Kyle Bradish as the greatest pitcher in the world, but everybody seemingly looks good when you're going up against the Washington Nationals.
And that's the thing. The Nationals have the second lowest team WOBA against right-handed pitching. I think it's like 262. They're not hitting them for any real strong power. They're not creating runs. But I mean, that's Washington in general here. But yeah, if you're looking for that pay down in pitching, I actually really like Bradish. He flashed some stuff last year at times, And then I think he just kind of got worn out a little bit more. I think that he ended up just kind of, tiring out. He really wasn't used to it. He comes out this season for his first start. He looks good in his appearance, but then he got hurt. And so he ends up coming out there. I looked at his last start in the minors during his rehab again, for I think it was Double-A Bowie that he was pitching for.
Yeah.
And he actually looked solid, looked strong. So to come back here and go up against a lineup like Washington, I think this is a good spot for him. I don't think they're going to push him too hard, but I think that they'll let him go those 5 innings and hopefully secure a win.
Speaking maybe to the bullpen of Boston here, we talked about how Minnesota is actually the favorite in this game. But if you go over to DraftKings Sportsbook, where I am looking, and they have the earned run line set for each pitcher, both at 2.5. Joe Ryan's over 2.5 runs is -120, under is -110. Corey Kluber under 2.5 earned runs at -140. So
really,
even though Minnesota is the favorite in the game, the earned run line on Kluber is under 2.5. So that leads me to believe, and you and I kind of go back and forth sometimes on the validity of bullpen stats, that Minnesota may not be getting to Corey Kluber, but when Corey Kluber comes out of the game, they may be getting to this Boston bullpen.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely a great point to make. Yeah, I love looking at bullpens, and I put that into my playbook. Just bullpens that are most likely to blow your starter's lead, or to kind of help boost your stack. I mean, how many times have you seen a game where all of a sudden there's like 5-6 runs scored in the 7th or 8th inning? So just in kind of looking at the last 7 days. Stats wise, yeah, that Boston bullpen, 3.64 ERA. Their strikeout rate is lower than a strikeout per inning. They're giving up a couple of, they're not giving up a lot of home runs, but they're giving up a lot of hard contact, and that's something that you definitely need to pay attention to.
Yeah, they took Chris Sale out of that game yesterday, and immediately the reliever gave up a home run. I think it was Josh Witkowski came in, gave up the home run, and blew that game for them. If we're looking at strikeout totals here, again, nobody really has crazy high strikeout numbers. Mackenzie Gore has the highest projected total at 6.5, but it's -175 on the under 6.5 strikeouts for him. Corey Kluber, Joe Ryan, both at 4.5 strikeouts, -175 in the over, -165 in the over for Ryan and Kluber. Luis Garcia is at 4.5, -155. The only 3 pitchers with strong odds there on the over their strikeout total today.
I got to tell you, I'm a little surprised that they've got Mackenzie Gore where he is. Baltimore is not a huge strikeout team against left-handed pitching. It's like a 20%, 21% strikeout rate for them. They also have the 3rd highest WOBA against left-handed pitching at 385, and they're doing it with power. Yeah. A 221 ISO, that's not screwing around. I do like this Baltimore lineup. I'm very, very surprised to see that they're hyping Mackenzie Gore as much as they are. I mean, I know he was a big name prospect. I know, everybody loved Mackenzie Gore and everybody was going after him, but you got to figure there's some reason why Mackenzie Gore is sitting here on, his 2nd team now, his 3rd team. He's never really gotten, that dominant, showing that, you're like, holy cow, this is the prospect we've all been waiting for.
Yeah. Last year, definitely some inconsistencies. I feel like the Padres were unsure if he was really a reliever or a starting pitcher. Washington, you trade Juan Soto, you get Mackenzie Gore and CJ Abrams back. You're going to do everything you can to make sure Mackenzie Gore is an ace pitcher and not a guy that's in their bullpen as a middling reliever. A couple of good starts for him, obviously against Atlanta to open the year, went into Coors and actually pitched pretty well, but the Angels gave him a bit of a hard time. The walks are really what's killing him. He's got 10 walks now in 15 innings of work this year. That's certainly not going to get it done for you, but the 18 strikeouts, 6 strikeouts per game. Cedric Mullins hitting 9th tonight. Obviously, it's the lefty-lefty matchup, but rare you see a hitter as talented as Cedric Mullins hitting at the bottom of a team's lineup. I've always been a preacher of the wraparound stack. I feel like people used to just avoid denying hitter to thinking, oh, he's bad, he's the worst hitter in the lineup. In some cases, that's true. Also, in some cases, right behind them now, you have the leadoff guy. You have the number 2 hitter, which is apparently now where your best hitter in the lineup hits. So I don't mind wraparound stacks. So even though it's lefty for Cedric Mullins, if we find out that maybe Mackenzie Gore isn't long for this game because of the way Baltimore hits lefties, Cedric Mullins hitting ninth today is kind of an interesting spot that you might get at low rostership because people don't want to roster a 9-hitter.
Yeah, they also don't believe in lefty on lefty crime. I think that's something that's a big thing. So yeah, if you're looking to differentiate yourself a little bit, I'm with you. I love the wraparound stack and going 9-1-2, depending on what the team is. So yeah, if you are pushing Mullins down there, I think that definitely makes sense. For where you're going to build it to. Obviously not my ideal guy to lock into my lineup, but sure, if I'm gonna play around a little bit and do like a high entry multi-entry GPP.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm on vacation, man. I don't even know the lingo anymore.
Oh, totally okay, Howard. You know what you're talking about. The faithful understand that.
What the hell's going on here?
Let's talk a little about the top end pitching on the slate for DFS purposes here. You got to build a lineup on DraftKings. You got to pick two of these guys, right? So that's also the struggle on DraftKings. Maybe it's a FanDuel day. You go pick one, but on DraftKings, you got to play two. Joe Ryan is your top price pitcher on this slate. He's going up against Boston. Back-to-back 10 strikeout games for Joe Ryan against the Yankees and against the Astros. So two pretty potent lineups. Boston, their offense tends to hit pretty well at home, but that lineup on paper doesn't look all that good. But they also don't strike out a lot. They have a under 20% strikeout rate on the season. So where does that put Joe Ryan for you when building lineups today?
I think it still puts him right in there for me. Listen, we were all talking about Joe Ryan in the preseason, the uptick in velocity that we saw, improving command. Joe Ryan is definitely blossoming into, one of those, in my opinion, probably one of the more unheralded pitchers that we see because he wasn't blowing anybody away with strikeouts last year. Now, all of a sudden, we're seeing an uptick as he's sort of learning to be a better pitcher. I always feel like Joe Ryan, he's not a number one, but he's like that rock solid number two starter that you want on your team. You get the flashy guy there to take all the attention from everybody. And then all of a sudden you come in and you're like, damn, we got to face Joe Ryan now after that. And I feel like he's that kind of a pitcher. I'm going to lock him in on my rosters here. I'm going to play around with him on FanDuel along with my pay down, but for DK, I got to lock Joe Ryan in. He's probably the only guy who I have the most confidence in. I like Luis Garcia, but this Toronto lineup always makes me nervous. I feel like, this Toronto lineup is just like on the verge of just putting up 15 runs in a row on in 7 straight games.
Yeah. I also have an issue with Luis Garcia's pricing here. And we've talked about this in almost every start that he has had this year, myself and James Grande. Luis Garcia is being priced like he's on the same level of Christian Javier or Framber Valdez, but he's not. He's not as good as those two guys. He doesn't have the strikeout upside as Christian Javier does. He doesn't have the consistency that you get out of Framber Valdez. Yet here we are. He's up over 9K here. He was 8,600 in his last slate, even though he only had 10 fantasy points. He's faced Texas, Minnesota, and Chicago, not exactly world beaters of offenses, and he's given up 12 earned runs in 14 innings here. So listen, I am certainly not a fan of spending up for Luis Garcia tonight, because to your point, that Blue Jays lineup certainly can do some damage on any given night.
Yeah, it really can. I think his pricing, I know you've got an issue with it. I too, I would never pay 9,100 for Luis Garcia on DraftKings, but I think it's just kind of relative to what the rest of that slate looks like. Not a lot of guys to choose from, and so it's Ryan, it's Garcia, and then it's Barrios, Kluber, Gore. Man, Johnny Brito, the beating that he took in his last start, that was like, that was vomitous, man. That was like, I felt bad for him. I don't often feel bad for a pitcher when he just gets decimated like that, but I kind of felt bad for Johnny Brito in that one.
He was definitely feeling pretty good going into that. He's, oh man, 10 innings, 1 earned run, I'm riding high. Blitz doesn't even get out of the first inning against Minnesota. It was funny because we build our lineups here at the end of the show, and I had sent the lineup to James with Brito in it, and I ended up pivoting off of him last moment. And he was texting me. He's like, "Oh my God, I hope you took Brito out of your lineup." But thankfully I did, or my night would have been over. I could have just gone to bed and not had to worry about it. So yeah, I think it's pretty interesting here. I'll if we're building lineups, the Kluber Vegas odds to me stand out. I may go Klubot at 7,600 and Bradish at 66 and Joe Ryan, and kind of mix and match. They're obviously playing Kluber and Ryan, not your typical way to go about a stack, but if you think both pitchers can pitch deeper into this game and limit the damage, maybe there's some value to that. But picking either Ryan and Bradish, Kluber and Bradish, probably the way I'm going tonight.
I'm gonna give you Kluber. I'm just not gonna. I can't feel good about the Klubot.
Sure.
Listen, I think that's So I'll give you that. I know he's got great experience against Minnesota. I'm sure a lot of these guys, have seen him often, even dating back to to his Cleveland times. But I can't do it, man. I can't. It's Joe Ryan. It's Kyle Bradish for me. I'm going Bradish as my pay down, and when I'm building some whacked out GPP lineup on FanDuel, Bradish is going to be my pitcher.
All right, I got that locked in again. We're going to build a lineup here at the end of the show. Again, on a smaller slate, you're going to find your value somewhere. I don't mind it. Let's go ahead up to catcher. We don't generally find ourselves spending up for catcher. Adley Rutschman is $5,400. You certainly can get there. He's 54, and then it goes right down into that 3K tier here. So, Howard, thoughts on Adley here tonight, hitting second against Mackenzie Gore? And if you're not going there, a whole plethora of guys 3K and under in lineups tonight.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, because I feel like, as far as bats that you want in there, I mean, why wouldn't I want, Shohei Ohtani? Why wouldn't I want to try and get Mike Trout in there? Why wouldn't I want to get Aaron Judge, into the lineup there? So, I might back off on Rutschman as we build this here. Again, I don't think that the catching position is anything really to shake up about. So I think it's kind of like, I could, pay down for somebody as useless as James McCann.
Hey, lefty matchup for James McCann. He used to hit them well,
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like you look at the lefty righty matchups and you're like, okay, that's not the worst thing in the world for that. So I'm looking at this as a pay down as much as I love Adley Rutschman.
I was a little stunned to see the number 6 next to Reese McGuire. That means he's hitting 6th in the Red Sox lineup here tonight. Red Sox lineup. Alex Verdugo leading off. Raimel Tapia hitting second. Justin Turner hitting third. Rafi Devers down to the 4-hole today. Kike Hernandez 5th. Reese McGuire 6th. Tristan Casas 7th. Jaron Duran 8th. And they called up Emmanuel Valdez from AAA today. He's hitting 9th. Yeah, Joe Ryan may be hitting the over on that strikeout total today. Let me tell you that. That's a pretty ugly lineup there for Boston. I just Red Sox, man, they give me the chills. Yeah, the one thing we talk a lot about too with baseball, it's a funny thing where a 0 doesn't necessarily kill you in fantasy baseball, because Mike Trout, you could spend $6K for him and he gives you a 0. If you played Paul Goldschmidt this afternoon, Cardinals scored 14 runs. He was $6,100. He went 0 for 4 with a walk, right? Like, spending up players isn't a guaranteed production like it is in the NFL, like it is in the NBA. So you can go ahead and almost, throw a dart at one of these catchers. If they get a 0, you may be okay, because a lot of other people are going to be playing these crap catchers tonight too, and they're almost as likely to put up goose eggs themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's if we're building the lineup here, let's do that pay down. That lefty righty matchup. If I'll be happy with McCann, but listen, man, if you really if you really want to get your Boston Red Sox in there, you want Reese McGuire.
I don't. Or we're playing Joe Ryan. I'm not going to go play Reese McGuire. So I was just pointing out that it is disgusting that the Boston Red Sox in their $1 billion payroll has Reese McGuire hitting 6th today rather. All right, first base. You mentioned you like Shohei Ohtani. He's up against Brito. Brito's still in New York. We know lefty power in Yankee Stadium. That's the spot. Are you playing Ohtani at first base, or would you rather use him in the outfield and get exposure to some of the other first basemen on this slate?
Other first baseman on this slate who I really like. Oh man, there is. Ugh.
Yeah,
Joey,
there's not a
Joey,
lot.
Joey Gallo going up against the Klubot. I know you don't like that. I mean, yeah, this could be a day where I might want to look at Vlad. But you know what? I tell you what here. If you wanted to talk about your wraparound stack, I don't mean to like hop all the way around here.
Yeah.
Do we want to go with that wraparound? You could go with like a James McCann, Cedric Mullins, Austin Hayes little wraparound there. Or we could say screw it with McCann and we could pay up for Rutschman and do your Mullins, Hayes, Rutschman stack.
Mullins, Hayes, Rutschman.
That would be a 9-1-2.
Okay. What about Mountcastle? Do we get the Mountcastle as part of that or no?
You want to go to a 4-man stack?
Well, no, but I'm just thinking we're at first base, right? So if we're looking at the first base position, Ohtani has first base outfield eligibility. I guess if we're slotting Ohtani in at first, then we can certainly do that wraparound stack. Mullins with Hayes there. They both hit. Hayes definitely hits left-hander as well. Obviously they have Mullins down there because they not a great split stat for him there, but
do we want to? Well, I mean, listen, I was just kind of throwing that out there. I have no problem not stacking anybody here and just figuring out where we want to do. Could put Ohtani in the outfield and go with Mountcastle against Gore. I mean, it's not like he's been a bad first baseman for anybody.
Nope, and he's hits better when he's away from home because they move the walls around in Baltimore. So
throw Mountcastle in there and put Ohtani into the.
Well, before we go Mountcastle, what are your thoughts on Anthony Rizzo? Home gets a righty matchup. Griffin Canning here, $4,200. Off to a pretty good start this year.
He is off to a pretty good start this year. I mean, I'm fine doing that. I mean, listen, I'll pair him up. I was kind of seeing what we could save around for Aaron Judge, but
Volpe at $3,500 is kind of where I was leaning there.
What's that?
Volpe at shortstop for $3,500 is kind of where I was leaning, and I was looking at maybe doing a Volpe Rizzo Judge play.
Okay, plug it in.
Volpe Rizzo Judge gives us $4,400 for a second baseman, a third baseman, and two outfielders. So plenty of money. We could 4-man stack with Gleiber if you wanted to. Mauricio Dubon has been unreal for Houston. He's been leading off for them. The man hasn't hit in all but one game this year.
Yeah.
At $3,100. So I mean, you could play Dubon there against Berrios. You could throw Yordan Alvarez in that.
Yeah. Oh, you're speaking my language here, man. Do we drop in the Dubon, Bregman, Alvarez stack?
We certainly can. Bregman
Let's try it.
Bregman at 47. That gives us a $3,500 outfielder with Joe Ryan, Kyle Bradish, James McCann, Anthony Rizzo, Mauricio Dubon, Alex Bregman. Is it Anthony Volpe? Yeah, Anthony Volpe, Aaron Judge, Yordan Alvarez, and a $3,500 outfielder would finish off the stack for us here. We could wrap it around with Frankie Cordero hitting 9th.
It's Franchi
Cordero.
Franchi.
Could go Franchi Cordero hitting 9th. Wraparound stack for the Yankees. We know there's a lot of power there.
Is Trevor Larnach really batting cleanup today?
Minnesota also not a good team, which is why I think that Kluber's earned run total there is 2.5 minus 140 on the under. Not a great showing. Let's see what the lineup is for Minnesota. Kepler leading off.
Yeah.
Correa, Buxton. Okay, that's your usual group there. Larnach, Eduardo Julian, who's been moved all over that lineup. He's hit leadoff. He's hit 9th. Tonight he's hitting 5th. Jose Miranda's hitting 6th. Joey Gallo off the IL hitting 7th. Ryan Jeffers hitting 8th. Michael A. Taylor hitting 9th. Former national great there. And Royal great hitting 9th. Much better against lefties usually. This lineup in general is usually better against lefties. So maybe another reason why Kluber there. So we got $3,500 if we wanted to go down here. I'm trying to see if there's any other. Willie Calhoun, min price for the Yankees, hitting 6th. Let's Let's see. We got Taylor, Oswaldo Cabrera. It's a lot of Yankees. A lot of Yankees around here. Jaron Duran's 2,400. He's been pretty good since being called up. Doubles in back-to-back games. He's 2,400, but we do have Joe Ryan as our pitcher tonight, so not quite sure we want to throw a guy in there against him. So give me your $3,500 outfielder here, Howard.
Jeez, there's not a lot to love on this in this outfield here.
There isn't.
I mean, again, you've got your Bostonian in you. So you don't want to go with Larnack against Kluber because you secretly believe. Stop it! You secretly believe that Corey Kluber is going to have 8 strikeouts tonight, and he's going to limit the Orioles to like nothing.
Well, he had 7 strikeouts in his start against 2 starts ago. He's got Minnesota here. Larnach hitting 4th. Obviously, guy hitting cleanup is interesting. We have Ryan and Bradish in our lineup, so that takes away, Call, who's leading off. So we're kind of in this range. I don't know if Whit Merrifield's going to play tonight, but Whit Merrifield's been pretty decent lately. $3,500. We're not sold on Garcia. Would you take a stab at a Whit Merrifield at $3,500 here?
I mean, I don't love him.
Okay.
I really, they've been batting him at the bottom end of that lineup too.
Yes. Does give you the wraparound opportunity. Not that we're stacking it, but does generally mean that behind him is Biggio, Guerrero, and the likes of that. He's got runs in 2 of 3. He's got hits in, what we got, 6 straight games? Hits in 6 straight games for Whit Merrifield?
All right. I mean, listen, I'll get for $3,500 for the one-off here in my outfield. I'm okay with taking almost any direction there. Kevin Kiermaier could be in the lineup tonight, right? And is Kiermaier gonna, could he even lead off, or will he bat 9th?
All right, so I just refreshed. We do have a lineup for Toronto. It's your usual top group: Springer, Bichette, Guerrero.
Yeah.
With Varsho, Chapman, Kirk, Merrifield's hitting 7th, Kiermaier's hitting 8th, Nathan Lukes is hitting 9th here. Corey Barron in the chat here says he's digging the Yankees O stack, but it's not working on FanDuel. Haven't checked out the FanDuel pricing. I know those guys tend to be up a little bit, especially if you're paying for Joe Ryan, I would imagine. I'm going to pull a FanDuel quickly on the second monitor here, Howard. The advantages of having multi-screens. Let's see. FanDuel here tonight. Joe Ryan's 11K, trying to fit in Yankees and O's. Definitely can be a little tough on you there. Judge at 43. Rizzo, Volpe. Where's Volpe? 2,600 to play. Yeah, it's tough. The too expensive. Volpe is pretty inexpensive at $2,800, but if you're trying to spend up for the rest of those guys, certainly a little tougher on these smaller slates. But I think I really like the Yankees tonight. I think I would call them my main stack for today.
Okay. Which I think is great. And listen, you could probably, and I don't know if this works on FanDuel, but here's your wraparound stack. If you go Franchi, Volpe, and Judge, you could probably even bring that down to Rizzo, because if Volpe and Cordero aren't hugely expensive, you go in that direction and then try and figure out, instead of stacking O's, just kind of figuring out where you can go from there.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, and just kind of quickly throw it. We got about a minute left here. See if I can quickly throw a lineup together for our guy, Bregman. I got 2 outfielders for $2,500. Yeah, definitely tough, man, over on FanDuel tonight. So I do wish you a little bit of luck there. We'll be in the Discord. If you're a member of Fantasy Alarm, make sure you sign up. All Pro Access, 50% off for the first 6 months using promo code MLB50. That takes you right through the first month of the NFL season here, so no better time than now to join the show. Howard, thank you for joining me here today. And everybody who's watching, you'll get more Howard this week. I'm off for the rest of the week. I'll be off in Las Vegas for the bachelor party. Cheers to that. Thank you to Adam Bernard, our producer here today. This has been the Quick Pitch MLB DFS podcast and live stream on the Better Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm. Good luck, everybody. We'll talk to you guys later.
Peace.